Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start welcoming you to our session today. We're going to be talking about RFP writing and how to prepare a response. It's a live session. Unfortunately, today, because we're going to do this live on YouTube, there will be no recording of the presentation. You will, however, have access to the slide deck. I have dropped it into your pre-meeting room, and I'll go ahead and drop it into our meeting here together today. Okay, I'll stop at the end and then ask questions once we go off YouTube Live, but I do this for our privacy reasons to make sure that there we go. Your privacy is protected. Okay. As well as the chat session. We will want to control that just a little bit more today for you. And then you can, when I open it up for questions, you can ask questions at that time. So hold those until we get through the presentation or until I open up the actual chat. This will allow us to control that. Also not allowed to annotate. That permission should be off for security reasons. The reason we get knocked offline, just come back on to this particular channel. It'll be here. We'll be here for the entire time. I like to stay until you stop having questions, and I'll do that as I can. I usually focus in on the screen today, but I'll go ahead and say hello to everybody. Hello, and you should be able to see us here. I'm here today, giving the presentation, and appreciate your time. And we're going to take probably about an hour together. As you can give me a few minutes with everybody in about a 5-minute time period to get organized here. I like to have a little fun with this presentation, so hopefully you can enjoy it. But it's sometimes there's a lot of stress in writing an RFP. I want to take out the mystery of it, okay, and the whole process of responding to a government when they're in the marketplace to hire you. The whole concept of theory of the firm and why we do business together. Essentially, everyone can't be a subject matter expert in everything. So we tend to lean on each other. You come in, offer your skill set or the supply that you're able to give, the service you're able to offer, the commodity that you sell, things of this nature. So I don't have to do it all myself. And governments in the United States have a long tradition of engaging with the private sector. The primary goal, though, is to make sure you're all treated fairly and everybody has the same ability to compete. And that's a fundamental part of government contracting in the United States. So we want to help focus in on that. So today, what I have with you here, first in the comment section, I have the slide deck. Okay, I'm also going to share with you a pamphlet that I've written, a little booklet, and it's about the RFP. Okay, so you can download at your leisure and use that. And then I'm going to give you a hard copy of the actual slides that you can use. If you use Google Drive, then you can actually come in and tap into the drive. Now I've opened it up and save that to your own drive, and so you have access to that information. Okay, so these are documents that you can use as you see fit. And if you have any questions afterwards, reach out to us. It is a recorded version today on YouTube Live. Okay, so you'll have access to this immediately after, and you can go in and maybe leave us a good comment. It's always helpful. Or also just index it so you can come back to it later and listen to it again as we walk through sort of the fundamentals. Everybody's still coming into the room. I'll stop letting them in about 30 more seconds, and then we'll get started here. You see our new capability statement slide here on our front page. If you don't have a capability statement, that is a service that we offer to our members. Go in and learn more about it. There's a quick video. Dr. Cynthia Harper helps us with that. Jessica Fernandez does with our graphic design. So the image can put together a very neat little document for you and the process. If you don't have our app, please download. Maybe some of you are watching us. It pulls together all of our services at one app. It takes away the concept of time, so everything's coming to you in an instant process. So please take a moment to download that. So here we're at 3:35, and I promised you to get going. So here we are with our slides in my presentation today. So today our goal is helping you respond to the RFP, and it's going to be built in such a way as if you just learned about a response that you want to get an answer back to, and I'm going to do it in a quick fashion to help you But in order to do that, you got to be prepared. I'm going to show you how to get prepared as well. This is a product of our Gov School services. We, as most of you hopefully know by now, we've been in the sector since 1998 and started in Atlanta, Georgia. We still have offices here, traditional business office hours. We grew and continue to grow. We've added Gov School. Not only do we help you find a bid at RFP Delivery and govdirections.com, but then we teach you how to do things yourself. And this is today we're at Gov School. And of course, as we learned, a lot of you are very busy, and especially when we're smaller, medium-sized businesses and we don't have time to do a lot of the details, you also need some technical assistance. And so Gov Advice is our micro consulting platform to help you engage with you, to help you do a better job at active response. So not only do we help you find, and then we help you learn to win, teaching you, we also help you actually go out and do the work to get it done. And so know that we have that full 360 approach. Give us a call about any of our services here. Here I am, and I'm your professor today in this class. And so I'm one of the founders of Gov Directions LLC. We have a great team here that serve your purposes, and our staff includes about 17 individuals now, serving about 120,000 members located internationally, 74 countries. I teach a class. I'm an instructor of a bids and contracting class at the University of Georgia in a graduate program. I teach future writers how to write RFPs and prepare them. And what I've done in this class here is I've reversed it. So I'm teaching you how to respond to them. What are they really looking for whenever they issue that RFP? So this is a role I enjoy very much. It's a huge honor to teach at my alma mater and also to come and help you with projects. I built this with selective consulting experience over some 30 years now. I've worked in 35 states, probably 400 different projects. Either I've won them or served as a subcontractor or engaged as an adjunct faculty member with the Institute of Government, University of Georgia. So they're working with local and state governments. So that experience I'm trying to share with you today. The purpose of our session is first to walk through and identify the structure of a request for proposal. And for all purposes today, I'm just going to kind of use that term RFP generically. I'm going to share with you some other contracting instruments, but you can apply the concepts to just about any of the types of instruments that you respond to. I'm going to walk through each of those sections and I'm going to explain the importance of them. And then I'm going to give you an actual RFP as if I was responding to them. I'm going to use something that really in my wheelhouse. The kind of work that I respond to is compensation management studies that local governments do primarily. I do sometimes work with state. I typically do not work with federal agencies, but with local governments. And so I'm going to show you one that I identified today and how I'll go about identifying it and how I'll go about responding when I'll start that response. I'm a huge believer in experiential learning and teaching that in that philosophy where you basically do to learn and we're going to take a live response in order to practice that philosophy. Okay. And I always like to start off with this common understanding because I get calls all the time. Man, I just don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. It's supposed to be hard. Okay. If it were easy, everyone would do it. So don't let the fact that it's a little hard scare you off. Okay. And this is a quote from Tom Hanks, The League of Their Own. It's one I use for just about every one of my sessions. Even my classes, I start off with this. It's like, just remember that going into it, don't get frustrated, take the mystery out of it. But just like, this is about a softball team and everybody can play softball, but if you want to be the best, it takes a little bit of work and it's hard to do that. So just know that going into it. And you won't be, and have a little fun with it. That's always important. As I mentioned, I'm going to use terms interchangeably in my session today, but the general contracting instruments that you see when governments engage with the private sector, or first, they have the request for information, request for qualification, source of salt. Those three are somewhat similar, where basically they're trying to determine if there's a marketplace that exists for the services, the supplies, the consulting that they need in order to accomplish an objective, a goal of their organization. Okay, so go out asking you to respond, tell a little bit about your company, and that's where that capability statement really comes into play, and having one that really works for you. If you don't have a capability statement, please examine that. While it's sometimes not needed as quickly at the local and state level, it is definitely needed at the federal government level. Okay, and if you, of course, you have a capability statement already in your account, you can upload those. And we're starting we'll continue to add to our services, and this will allow you to broadcast your capabilities to those who might be seeking you. And so take a minute to do that. If you do not have an account with us, you won't see this addition here from the front page, but if you do, have an account already, it'll allow you to upload. Okay, so it's a new feature. We haven't announced it quite yet. You're the first to really see that unless you came directly to the website. And then we're going to look at invitations to quote. I was actually working on a quote just a few minutes ago with somebody. Okay, and a little bit simpler, not so complex. Everybody should know what they're seeking, and you're able to respond, give back a price in a pretty quick manner. Okay. Then we look at the invitation to bid or the request for bid, sometimes referred to as the solicitation. Also the combined synopsis / solicitation. Between the two of those, the combined synopsis is a streamlined acquisition, acting somewhat quickly in order to get a response back, as opposed to the pure solicitation, giving you a little bit more detail and time to respond. But both of those somewhat simplified in the request that they have. And that term "simplify" is a relative term. As you grow in the marketplace, it becomes simpler. Okay, and then of course the request for proposal. Request for proposal, somewhat open-ended, and where they're asking you to help them understand what you're actually how to achieve the goals that they're achieving. They have a broad request, maybe, or even sometimes in an agile way where they're asking you to be involved in the concept of providing the service they're seeking, but they want you to really take the time to show your knowledge and tell them about your company, tell them about how can they achieve their objective as efficient. You are the subject matter expert. So I like these best, and this is really where you get to shine. Okay, but it does take some effort beforehand. Okay, to get to that point where you're shining for the organizations. Okay, so then we get to in the general definition of what we're actually talking about in RFP. I like to give you the definition because that helps you understand really what you're doing, I think, sometimes. And so here, a request for proposal, clearly defined as a solicitation. Okay, that means they're actively seeking your response. They want you to compete against others, that you're in a bidding process. Okay, it's not a done deal. It's not already been decided. Okay, they have the RFP on the street. They're wanting you to respond. Okay, they're actively engaging. There are enough ways that a local, state, and federal agency can just go and make a buy or make a purchase without ever going through this arduous process. So if they're going to do that, then they will. So whenever you see them, just know that it's a competitive process. Okay, it's always done by an agency or company or organization that's trying to procure this commodity, service, or right there, that valuable asset. It's valuable to them. They've been through this a lot of times, an elaborate decision making. It's taken a year to get to the point where the actual RFP or invitation to bid has been issued. It may be a 4 or 5 year contract opportunity or a period of engagement. So it's valuable to them. They've taken a lot of time to get to the point where they're at. Okay? And they practice, the accuracy and the brevity and clarity, and making sure everything they've done is perfect for you to respond to. And so when they do that, they want you to take it seriously and give them a business proposal back. Okay. And just the other day I had someone literally just writing in a response. I just want to encourage you, take it seriously, get the tools that you need, the Adobe Acrobat, all these tools that we all see nowadays, and organize your thought process and get it in a professional way back to them. They will appreciate that much more and give you more favored approach to how they review things. Okay. So just know that that's the pure definition of an RFP. Now, when you take a look at an RFP, these are the primary parts that you're going to see. And I'm going to talk about each of these today. First is going to be that statement of work. Okay. The statement of work is when you read it, it's going to be hopefully short and sweet. Okay. It's going to be maybe a paragraph, 3 or 4 sentences. And whenever you read it, like I did with one client today, she goes, "This is perfect for me." Okay. And then that's the way you need to approach it, because if it doesn't sing that Coldplay song in the back of your head, you're the one that I wanted to find, then it's not the right bid for you, not the right RFP. Well, move along until you get that revelation. Okay. And that's everyone that you look at that you want to respond to. It needs to really fit you. And when you go into it, you need to be approach it in a way that I'm going to win this one because it's perfect for me. Then listen, this coming year, now that Congress, they didn't shut down the government this past weekend, as of October 1st, we really are entering into a fiscal year period. It's going to be close to a $7 trillion marketplace if we don't go beyond that. And that's at every level of government, local, state, and federal. Okay. And while local and state governments were even in danger of, delaying the ultimate part of actually working in government, Now we don't have that problem or even concerned about it for the rest of them. Okay, so they got their budgets now. They're out there actively engaging. I've seen, in fact, a significant increase in bids this week already. So it's going to be a large marketplace. So you're going to be able to find the bid that fits you. Don't worry about that. Okay, you're going to be able to do it. So pass over some. Don't just respond to everything. It needs to be the one that you're wanting to find. Okay, and you know that by the statement of work. Okay, most important part of reading an RFP. So capture that first, and then you start moving on. If you have that, you get that message, that song starts playing. As it's playing, start looking at the technical specs. Okay, and government's going to itemize what they're looking for in order to engage with you. Here's what we want you to accomplish with us. Okay, it's not just the deliverables, but here's what we actually are seeking to do. Okay, and itemize, almost always in an ordered process. And when it's ordered, pay attention to that. Okay, when you respond back to them, you want to use that same logic in your approach. In fact, one thing to remember as you're starting to read these is this document, well, it's meant to engage you. It's also meant to treat everybody fairly and equally in the actual presentation of the material that they're seeking. And so that's important to remember because somebody's going to go through and check that off. That person's called the procurement officer or contracting officer, and you want all those checks. I did everything, and this is the best way. Don't make them go searching for responses, or the response back. Order it back and give them what they're asking for. And also remember, here are the technical specs that they're seeking. They're not asking you to do all these other things. So don't talk about all these other things. Stay focused in your approach. Okay, it's the government's responsibility to tell you clearly what they're seeking. The burden of clarity is on them to begin with. Okay, the response back, that then falls back to you on being clear back on your response. Okay, but you don't need to give them anything they're not actually seeking. Okay, that's not the goal of an RFP. They're also going to tell you the schedule. You got to pay a particular attention to the schedule. Sometimes there's changes. I saw one where we thought it was going to be due October 31st. They issued an amendment, and now it's due October 13th. They had the 1 and 3 reversed. And so you got to pay attention to all of that information related to the schedule. Sometimes it's quick. Sometimes they give you a little bit of time. Sometimes they give you way too much time. Okay, so probably the number one complaint we always get, I didn't have enough time to get a response to this bid. Well, you need to be prepared to go. So if you see a bid this afternoon that's due tomorrow, that you can actually get a response to it. It's the responsibility of your company and your business to do that. And I'm going to show you how to. Okay, the list of deliverables. Here's how they want you to deliver the responses. Sometimes it's just a straight up, I want you to deliver 150,000 pints of milk by October 31st. Okay, and you got to have it here by 2:00. That's easy. Okay. Other times it's more elaborate. This is a consulting arrangement. Like when the work I do, they're going to be like 4 or 5 stages, and you're going to have timing related to it. And then the parts of the technical specs we want you to accomplish will be driven to that. And sometimes, almost always driving my costing and my pricing that I get back. Okay. Same thing with that other. If I got to have it there by, in 2 weeks, and it's going to cost me a time to expedite it and so forth, then I'm going to use that as part of my pricing too. Pay attention to deliverables. Governments don't take things late. Okay. Occasionally, if you need an extension time, there's unique products or pricing structures that they have. You can request that and they'll give you that, but you need to make that an official request in the manner that you do that. But don't count on that. The judge typically doesn't happen. The contract terms and conditions. This is your profit center. Pay attention to it. Governments aren't going to move on their contract terms. They're going to tell you what happens if there's a problem. Okay, so know that. And just like we just experienced, if the federal government actually shut down, they have in your contracts, they're going to have how they're going to deal with that. And then you got to be prepared to do that. And that's part of it eat into your profit that you might have particularly with a particular pricing that structures you get back to them. But know that going into it, read through the contract terms. If they don't give one, and they ask you to give them an example, go ahead and give an example. Have one prepared for your company. Okay, take the assertive on that. But generally, at the end of the day, you're going to live with the contract that the government gives you and the terms and conditions that they give you. The format of the proposal. That's the best thing about working with government. They're going to tell you how they want you to respond. The one I was just working on, helping a client write, it's basically they want a certain size pages. They want a font. They want Arial font, 11 size, and they want every page numbered in a specific way. You got to do exactly what they want in this formatted proposal. Okay, and they will give you that. A lot of times now, it's going to be an electronic system in various portals, and so you're just going to upload it. The one I had the other day in Houston on some client, right? they actually had to electronically upload it, and they also had to FedEx it to send them overnight with one of the copies printed out, but the rest of it on a travel drive. So they can get very specific in how they want you to respond. Okay. And questions, they typically give you the questions that they're asking you to address, and you want to address them. Now, you don't want to do a verbatim response back, which sometimes what I do is actually list a question and then give my answer. Okay. So that they know that I'm addressing every question they have. Never leave any question for doubt. Okay. If you can't do something, you need to tell them, okay, that you can't do something. And if you want to help explain it, or maybe bring in a solution, you should. Okay. But you need to address everything in the actual requested deliverables that they're seeking within the format that they ask you for. Okay. And if they ask you to do your price volume first, and your performance volume second, and your qualification volume third, then you do it in that order. Don't just give them a pre-formatted RFP response that potentially can disqualify you. Really, just set them off the wrong way, that you don't know how to follow just basic instructions. Okay, I think that's one of probably the biggest failures for some of the responses that I see written, is that they don't follow the instructions of the format. Okay, and that gets them disqualified. Always be very concerned about the actual signature pages, things like that. Okay, qualifications and experience, and they're going to tell you about what they're looking for. This is an area, and I would just start off, just to go back on the statement of work. If it doesn't match me, and that, give you that, that revelation of you're the one I want to find, and move along. But the technical specs, if you can't do everything, okay, you still stay in the game. Same thing with deliverables. You're going to try to deliver everything. It's something you need a bridge. You can still stay in the game. Okay. Same thing with qualification experience. Sure, they want somebody who's got 20 years experience, but may not get anybody that matches that. So that's not a reason to walk away. Okay. And oftentimes you can even write that in a Q&A, and then they'll make an exception for you. Okay. And I saw that with another client the other day, and they were able to bid on a project. So she had 3 or 5 years experience, and they were looking for like 10 years. And then they said, oh, no, sure. And they went back and bridged it. Okay. So made an addendum to that. Okay. Pay attention to that. Cost breakdown. Government's going to tell you how they want that done. And also remember that, unlike popular belief, most of this is not done by low cost. And so they're going to help you understand what they're looking for, and you're going to respond back to them. Oftentimes that's 10 to 20% of the decision-making process. Sometimes they want it in a separate envelope so they can make a decision on who's best first, and then look at pricing, but almost always in a negotiated stage with local and state government specifically. Okay, just so you know and understand that going into it, you should be prepared in your pricing structure to give them the price that you deserve to be paid. They want you to make money. They don't want you to just come in there and lose. That's not good for anybody. The last thing that a contracting officer wants to do is hire somebody that can't get the job done because they didn't bid high enough, or they didn't, they basically weren't qualified, but they don't want to be embarrassed by making a decision of hiring you when you're just shaving your points for some reason. Okay. So what they want to do is get the right company for the right. So they're willing to pay a little bit more if they have to do that. Okay. Just know that's just a fact. And you'll find that in any government, just about any contract in general, but I think specifically in local government contracting, that whenever you go out and bid. And then the evaluation criteria itself. Evaluation criteria is important that you take that and then use your final proposal. Even when you're drafting your proposal, what are they looking for? How are they going to measure you? I know when I teach in graduate school, they always want to know what my scoring matrix is before they do a project. And sometimes I'm like, I really just want you to learn. But they're always going to focus in on how am I going to score them? And the same thing you should be doing here too, because that's how you're going to get how you're going to win the big deal, okay, and get the contract. So with that, here's your typical parts that you're going to look for. Sometimes it's laid out in this order if they've taken my class. Okay. Other times you got to go out and just kind of search for this, okay, and see where they're at. But you should be prepared for these typical parts and have answers to them when you decide you want to go into this as a government contract. Okay, so let's go in, and I'm going to just quick tips. One is, first, when you take a RFP, always read it in the entire proposal. I always go give you an out, though. If that scope of work doesn't match you, like we talked about, go ahead and move along. Don't bother reading the rest of it. Okay, if it does, then make sure you absolutely read the entire proposal. Okay, so there's not something there buried that can prevent you from winning the contract. Okay, pay attention to the areas that we discussed. Okay, Look for those, check those off, understand those first. Okay. Set aside, think about it. Okay. Talk to your colleagues, make sure you're a good fit, even if you only got 5 hours to respond. Okay. Make sure it's the right deal for you. Okay. And then sometimes at this point, you actually bring in other colleagues to help you prepare a winning proposal that gets the expertise that you might need in order to do that. And then sit down and try to complete the proposal in one good setting at one time, and then you'll find you're doing a good job. And then wordsmith it at the end, but don't really submit it until maybe the day before, the morning before it's due, not too soon. Okay, even when you have 2 weeks to do it, take the full 2 weeks, because you know what, work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. And so if it's 5 hours, you're going to have it done in 5 hours, but it's 5 weeks, take the full 5 weeks. Wait for the addendums. Don't file it just yet, because there might be addendum near the end that you got to sign, and you won't have to redo everything. Okay, so this Parkinson's law, it specifically applies to government contract. So, I've talked about this a little bit. We do have RFP writing services. I'm going to show you how we go about doing that. You can call us if you have any questions and book with that. Okay. And I should share with you the only source of knowledge. I'm a big believer in this is experiential learning. And so let's take a look at an actual RFP. Okay. So when you're at RFP delivery, when you first come to us, you're going to go through our primary page, a start page. Sometimes when you start, you're at this front screen here, and you can go in and just do a general keyword search. And just remember that we are a Boolean style search technique. So if I want 2 words together, then I put those words together, and they have to appear together in the research. Okay. If I want multiple words, I'm using conjunctions, like if I wanted human resource, for example, or human. Okay. If I want and, means that I'm limiting my search. Okay. This is the way we all search a database like ours. Okay. It's a Boolean search, been around for a long time, of course. And before we all got into the concept of Google searching. Okay. So if you just search it in general, for one keyword, you can start that way. Okay. In addition, our mapping system goes in and shows you where all the bids are at in any given setting, in any given industry, in some 174 countries that we serve. Okay. So that you can drill in to these bids. If you're in code enforcement, for example, and others, different ways to get the information that you're seeking. In your dashboard, you're able to go in and you're able to search. Okay. In the left side, you're going to have your filters. Okay. And then right side, you're going to have your keywords. My recommendation is don't do them at the same time. Okay. You kind of get lost sometimes. So if you have a keyword you want to search, you start there. But otherwise, you want to go to your filters. And once you save a filter, you're going to have shortcuts to actually go in and run those filters. Okay. So I do human resource management. So one of my filters is consulting, human resource. Okay. And then I can go in and limit myself by state. But the truth of the matter is, I can work in any state. So I want to know everywhere. But occasionally, I love to work in some specific states. So I might want to have a second filter that covers, South Dakota, North Dakota, where I like to go a lot of times. This is one of the great parts of our country. Okay. Or in Vermont or Nebraska, or in New Hampshire. In fact, let's go look at New Hampshire. Okay. Because it's fall, the foliage, and there's a reason to work there. And so you can also go in and do even more refined searches. But for my purposes, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get too restrictive in my search. Okay, so I'm gonna first I'm gonna save my filter, and then at the same time, I'm going to apply my filter. So I'm gonna look for an HR project in New Hampshire. Look there, there's a project. It's due October 6th. I only have 2 days to get this done. It's probably going to start probably about snow season. So then I can go maybe snow skiing potentially. State and local bid. New Hampshire. I might want to go ahead and zip this off to a friend, let them know I'm interested in this. Okay. Or in our services, if one of our clients in our premium services, you send it to your personal researcher, they get started on it. It's going to have them the link, get them going with it. Okay. But I'm going to go in there and take a look at that bid. So I go in, search more information. At this point, it's going to give me some basics about this bid. It's going to be for Derry, New Hampshire. What a great place to go and do a project. It's going to be right in my wheelhouse. Okay. Give me the bid number here, there, who to contact. It's due through October 6th by 4 p.m. I'll start picking up on these items. I'm going to save this bid or capture it, as it's called in this business. And at this point, your personal researcher actually sees this as well. And if you have that service, okay. But I can also go in there and view them. And our saved bid folders, we can keep them there as long as we like. Our front system only active bids active bids are not speculative by any means. That means there's a contract. Somebody's going to win on or about this date. Okay. And so when I open it up, it's going to take me to the actual location. Here we go. So here's Derry, New Hampshire. At this point, you leave Gov Directions RFP delivery, and you're working directly with the government. Okay. At this point, the government wants to work with you. We step out of the way. There's no additional finders fees, no expenses. Okay. Just so you know all that detail. But here, if you got a question, you get here, maybe get to one of those pesky third-party systems that are just a pain. We know how to get through all those, and we watched all those for you. So let us know that, and we'll help you do that. If you ever present with a request for payment at this point, don't pay anybody. It's all free. Every state now mandates it. And so you get access to that without any cost. So you can just give us a call if you don't know how to figure that out, but you don't need to be paying these systems that are really have closed in relationships with certain governments, but you still have access to it. And they're only working with those governments. So that's a problem. If you haven't watched our bid week class, week where, you get hoodwinked sometimes and they take a lot of money from you for no purpose, please watch that. It'll just save you some money. Okay, but skip my pitch there. That's one of the, actually, one of my pet peeves. People call me and say, I just spent 500 a year, 1,000 there, and I don't have anything. We don't want you doing that. Okay, open your document, see what they want. Here's the RFP. Okay, now what I do in writing RFPs is I have member drives. Okay, and so with us, we have clients who work with us, and I'll just back up and so you can see how this particular process works. Here's a sample folder. You want to do the same sort of folder that you would potentially have access. You have for your own company. Okay, each member has a drive, comes in. This one's named after the member name. And for this particular purpose today, for those of you who are on Gmail, Google Drive right now, I'm going to open it up. And you can come in and take a look at it. I'm going to drop that email in there. Okay. And so you can come in and see how this is organized with me. Okay? If you understand this. If you don't understand that, feel free to give us a call. We can kind of explain to you the process of Google Drive. Here's a free tool. Anybody can use it. Okay. And there's some, so it's there for you. And I do this, I set it up this way so we don't have added expenses. When you first start out, it's not necessary just to add all these additional costs. I know sometimes you'll see hundreds of dollars to actually have an RFP written for you, sometimes thousands, but probably about 800 to 1,000 each. We try to make it easier, streamlined. Okay, so you can come in there and see that. I have in my sample drive, I have my capability statement always ready to go so that I can send it to whoever, and you should have one as well. I have the document stored there. Get to them real quick. I have my logo. Okay, your logo, you want to put in there. Keep it transparent so you can use it. You can drop in a cover letter that you might need and so forth. In our system, we have drop files, so you can come in there and store certain things in the RFP process itself. When we open it up, we have your RFPs of interest, and we have RFP components. Okay, RFPs of interest are the ones that you're working. Okay, we have an active folder. And I'll show you that. Okay, RFP components. These are documents that you're going to see in common place that the government is actually asking you to respond to in here, potentially a W-9 or maybe a document like a non-collusion statement. Something like that. Okay, every business is different. And every state's different. They're gonna have different rules. You'll see potentially some that say, you have to have an E-Verify, or potentially you can't boycott Israel. Other types, or you can't do business with Iran. So a lot of these things you don't really think about until you actually go in and actually start submitting them. One document I was working with a client and doing demolition work. He had, I think, close to 15 certifications he had to make for a demolition project and all of that had nothing to do with his line of work. He's not really familiar with all the governmentese. We help you through that understanding of that. Okay, so in your folder, you want to always have that process organized, so you can just pull those out very quickly. Once you do one, you do them all. And when I do mine, I do 6 folders. I do my executive summaries, multiple ones. These are summary about my company, framed in different ways depending on the type of project that I'm responding to. Okay, and then I have qualifications. This will be my resume, also information about my company and what we specialize in. Okay, sometimes I have specific degrees and certifications in particular areas. I'm a subject matter expert in factor evaluation system, and I'm trained in that. So I've done training. I show that for that when I respond to a client. Okay, methods and deliverables. I have now come across literally hundreds of deliverables that have been required. and I go in and I tell each of them how I'm going to do something specifically. Okay. And so when I answer one of those questions, I don't need to do the, redo that every single time. I'm able to come to it, just pull from that and have that ready to go. And I improve that over time. But this is referred to as your methods and deliverables. Okay. Your certifications. Some of us have multiple ones. We might be woman-owned, might be small business, we might be local small business. Our company is in the DeKalb County area, so it could be a local, state, or federal level certification. Occasionally, you're a certified plumber, or you have a license for HVAC work in a particular state. Maybe you have a multiple states or legal. Then you're gonna have those stored there, so you can come pull those. I know I do some food bids. The certificate of health is one of those we've learned recently, trying to have that, I think, making sure the differences are there. Okay. Your forms, this is like your W-9 form, and other types of forms that you're on an collusion forms that you do routinely, and you have those ready to go. So you don't have to redo them all the time. Okay. At least you have the answers ready. And then your performance. Just remember the contract. I keep a copy of the work that I've done over time here, and the final reports, my reference sheet, which can be, now it's long and long and long. And so I'm gonna list all of those. In fact, I get to a point where sometimes I forget the projects I actually worked on some 25 years ago. So you don't want to forget. People move on. Whenever you get a project done, always get a letter of recommendation or a letter of completion. Some states require that. And that way you can have it in your own file. And you can share that whenever you need to. I'm a client right now who's trying to scramble to get performance letters for past performance. And that's something the federal government requires. And sometimes that can be hard to get when people move on. Okay. So you want to have that copied and stored so that you can pull those out as you need them. Okay. Don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Your RFPs of interest, like this one here, has now become an RFP of interest for me. Okay. I'm going to come in, I'm going to have my active folder, the ones I've submitted, the ones I've won, and I have my no bid folder. Okay. You know what I always do? And whenever I set these up for other clients, I said, you know what, until we get this going too much, we're going to change the name of this folder. And I'm going to call it my learning folder. Okay. Because you know what? Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to learn. Okay. I'm going to learn here why I'm not bidding, why I'm not winning. Okay. We don't have a no win folder. It's going to be a learning process or a win process. Okay. And there's a lot of reasons that you don't win, potentially. And that is that you got to learn from it. And that may not have anything to do with what you've done. It could have to do with the decision-making process at the local government or state government. And it's important to remember that when humans are making a decision, a lot of factors can go into play, including emotional or social means of decision-making parts. Okay. And so no fault of your own, there could be a reason why somebody chooses that. And you can do that. There's research that's been done about that. Professor Ronald Coase was famous for a quip where basically he said, and he's kind of the theory of the firm is his idea, is what his knowledge was about. I basically said humans can be stupid sometimes, and we make illogical decisions. So it's not always based on logic. Even having the best proposal, you don't want to go and reinvent that if you really are doing great. And it was really a decision that was made beyond your capabilities to address. Okay. In my active folder, what I'm going to do here at this point, I'm going to actually go in. I'm going to create me a subfolder. Okay, and I'm going to call this one Derry, New Hampshire. Create that. Okay, and then I'm going to start me a actual process of taking that response. Okay, I've downloaded it. I'm going to save it as a PDF. So I know, and I'm going to get all the files that are associated with this. So if I'm in a federal one, I'm going to download everything. Okay, I'm going to export it as a PDF, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to drop that into my folder. Starting to get too many windows here. Yeah. I'll download, and this is so easy. Google's so smart. I'm just like, how do they think I'm doing all this stuff? I remember sitting on a plane reading about this small company called Google. And I'm like, they got a good idea. And they did. They had a good idea. So here's my download. And let's see what else. It's all live, folks. And I'm going to open up for questions in just a second. Okay, I'll go download it. Export as PDF. It's there. Folder. I'm sticking with this, so we're going to continue to do this live. Go to desktop. There we go. There it is. Dragging it over. Not wanting to cooperate. It was a little bit larger file. Oh my goodness, there we go. Okay, well, apparently that's not working for some reason, but here's my file. Okay, and so in my file, I would have drove it over, so I have the PDF, this actual file within my document folder. And in this case here, what I would do next is I would start by going in and doing a new. I'll just do the file upload. That actually will work. So I can have it here and show you how to copy and paste it. Okay. And as it's doing that, there it goes. So that way we can share it with others. I would open it up and it will be there for me. In the meantime, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start there's my document. Okay. So I don't lose it. Sometimes what I go ahead and do is I go ahead and rename this. Okay. To October the 6th, add it. Okay. So I don't lose my time. Okay. So when I see it visually, I know it reminds me to when it's due. Okay. That's when it's further out. I think it's important. And then I'll start my actual response. Okay. Just go ahead and do that. New. I'm going to do a Google Doc. Create and share. Okay. And I'm going to call this, start off with response. The government itself is going to tell me what to call my response and how I'm going to submit it. And so when I initially start, though, I want to be able to go in there and be somewhat generic. Okay. So it's out of it. Google's, I've got a lot of people in this room with me. It's a problem. Probably should have rethought that that part. Okay. So I'll get my name on there. Okay. It's not going to be called E. It's going to be called response. There we go. And I want to keep it alive so you're in the room with me, but it is creating some problems I didn't expect. Okay. And so in my response, then I'm going to start by going back to the actual RFP and take a look at it in the details. Okay. And then I'm going to see what they're looking for. Okay. In the document itself, I'm going to pay attention. There it is, RFP number. Okay. Go ahead and put that on my folder so that I have that there for you. Okay. And I won't lose that at the beginning. And then I'm going to remind myself how I got to do this. So when I respond, they want it in a sealed envelope. Okay. So go ahead and remind myself at the top. Okay. So I can go back to it. Okay. These are just general notes that I'm making. Okay. I'm going to close this. And so the proposals are due at 4 p.m. Okay. Here we go. Going in. Who I'm going to write my letter to, things like this. Okay. The actual RFP address and everything can be received by going to the website, and that's all. I'll get that detail in there. Okay. Tells me about the government itself. Will give me some instructions, how they work. Since I know that this is actually a budget item, I might go ahead and go to the budget, see how much they budgeted for this project. Okay. So that's a part of my research. Okay. that's part of the pricing too. So that I know they got $50,000 set aside for this project, and I'm gonna stay within that pricing structure in order to get back with them, okay, in order to give them a proposal. Okay, so here are the scope of the services. I told you about the scope. Okay, they want me to meet with them and do some details. So they've actually kind of combined the actual scope of the project with the deliverables. Okay, not all governments break it out separately, but here's what they're seeking for me to accomplish. Okay, so and maybe in my cover letter, I'm going to make sure I reaffirm these items. Okay, so there's 5 there. Let's keep looking down there. Assessment survey. I'm going to make sure I can do everything. Give them recommendations. Of course, I got a schedule here. They want me to have a response back by a particular time. I should have already got my questions asked. Okay, by now. This one we would have learned about a little earlier. Okay. My proposal requirements. Okay, so here's my scope. I'm just going to just copy that. Okay, going in, I'm going to copy it so that I know exactly how they want me to do this. I'm going to look at it. I want a cover letter first. Okay, I'm going to go back real quick though, because they're telling me how they're going to evaluate me. I'm going to put this in the back of my mind. Okay, responsiveness, that's 15 points. Qualifications, 25 points. Previous work, 15 points. Understanding, 20 points. Cost, 25 points. Goodness gracious, 75 points. If I could just tell them, explain to them how I can do the work. Okay, so why would I focus on? I'm not even focused on prices yet. Okay, not only that, but I'm not going. I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm not even going to come close to being low price because it's only 25 points. I'm going to get all these other points first. Okay, I'm going to give up on these because if you're brand new to the game, these guys are going to they're going to lose on this points. And they're going to have to go cheap on this pot side, but I'm still going to beat them out. Okay, so you start thinking about some of those things. Okay, they're going to choose 3 firms. So all I got to do is get in the top 3 to begin with. Okay, then I'm going to negotiate that. I'm going to look at just some basic information here. Okay, they want to ask about questions, who they can go to, the jobs that they want taking a look at, and then that's it. That's all that's in this RFP. Okay, so my questions, I may not be actually responding to this individual, but I'm going to go ahead and copy that information there. So I can put it in my cover. I may have to take this a little bit differently. Okay, so then I'm going to start writing my proposal. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do a page break, insert break. I'm going to do a section break. Okay, and then I'm going to this is going to be my cover letter. Okay, remember I already had my my logo. Let me go back to that. There's a sample folder. Copy my logo. And some of the skills I may not have exactly. So I have other people can help us, but I can also go into my response and just insert my logo. Okay, insert image, flow for switch to drive and my drive. Start my cover. And just know in your cover letter, always the date that you're submitting. Okay, going in. Excuse my typing at this point. Okay, I'm gonna come back and edit it. Okay, who I'm gonna send it to. This is gonna be electronically sent, or actually it's gonna be FedEx, so I gotta get the address. Okay, but I'm gonna go ahead and put the electronic information and the address here. And of course, I want to do my dear filer. Okay, I'm gonna give them an opening paragraph. In your opening paragraph, tell them what you're responding to. This is to respond to number, RFP number, details like that. Then tell them why you're responding. Tell them why you're the best. Nobody's going to sing your praises except you. Remember that. Tell them why you're the best. Don't back down on that. Okay. Be confident in your approach when you come into a government contract. Always remember that. Okay. Don't tell them why you can't do something. Don't say things like, I don't have a lot of experience. Therefore, don't start off that way. Always just go straight into it. This is why you're doing what you do. Okay. Let them just point out that you don't have a lot of experience if necessary. Don't try to, don't use a negative to sell your company. It's not a good practice. Okay. And then how? Okay. How to get in touch with you, how to get responses. Okay. Sign it. Okay. Signature here. Try to do it on one page. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to start my document. Okay. Insert, image, break. You don't have a sample cover letter, you reach out to me, I'll give you a sample cover letter. Okay. You can't, your cover letter should be somewhat consistent. Always start off mine. Mine with my first paragraph, what I'm doing. The second one is who I am, why I do what I do. And then I talk about how great I am. And then I talk about how to get in touch with them. Okay. And that's important that you do that. And in the sense that it's your company that you're selling. Okay. So then on the next one, they're going to want to know a brief description of your firm. But what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to actually start a cover sheet. Okay. In a cover sheet, you're going to go in and you're going to start, basically saying what you're doing. Okay. Proposal to RFP, whatever that number is. Okay. I'm going to put my logo back in here. Again, I've already got it copied up here. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure it's all centered. Eventually, I'll make sure my font is all good. Okay. Things like that. There's a center. And I'm going to put my company name. Okay. And then I'm going to put the date again right here. February 6. And I'm going to call my contact data. Some people, some companies suggest you go with your and put the logo of the government and things like that. I don't do it that way. I do my logo. Okay. I'm selling my company at this point. Okay. So I think it's important that you do that. Okay. Everybody can learn just a little bit differently. Make that up a full page. Okay. Start your sections again, another section break. At this point, I'm going to make sure that I have a footer. Okay. Insert break, section break. Okay. In my footer, I'm going to actually put, okay, page number. Okay. We all know how to do this. Okay. Start at 1, start at the section. Okay. And then I'll give them the total. Okay. So they know how many is going to be in their proposal. Basic stuff. Okay, folks. Page number, form number. Okay. Apply that. So we're going there. Oh. Insert page numbers, page count. Okay. So I have that detail. Generally, what I'll actually will do as well is somewhere I'm going to put my company name. Go directions. And I do this just about with any proposal. Okay. I'm a terrible typer. Okay. Make it always do the right-hand margin, but you can do it any way you want to. Okay. And here I'm going to start with table of contents. Unless they tell me they don't want one, I'm going to do one. Okay. Great thing about Google Drives and Google Documents is it's all pre-formatted for you. You just go in, say you want table of contents. How you want it done, I do the numbering system, and then it's going to start doing it for me. Okay. So whenever I go in for the next page, insert, break. This time I'm just going to start doing a page break. This is not a section break. Okay. And they want me to give them a company profile. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay. And then I'm going to give it a title. And I'm going to start off with a formatting process that I'm going to use. And this is going to make me feel better too, because it makes me actually look like I'm accomplishing something right away. Because when I go back up here, I'm going to start doing just hit this refresh. It's going to start rolling it in for me. Okay. So I think it just makes you feel like you're accomplishing something, and then I'm going to go back in and just do the entire format first, lay it out, project understanding and technical approach. Let's go to my next header. Maybe a different page break. I don't know yet. So because my description is going to be brief. What does it mean, brief? Brief means 1, 2, maybe 3 paragraphs, no more. Okay. Brevity. Okay. When you're doing technical writing, just keep this in mind. Accuracy. Always be accurate when you're dealing with the government. Brevity. Keep it brief. Only use words that's necessary. Don't use the same word twice in a sentence. If you're not familiar with technical writing, go get the book. It's called Strunk and White, The Elements of Style. Okay, it's an easy handbook. I give it to just about every student I teach. Okay, you need to have something like that to guide you. I still use it routinely, and just reminds you how to write a sentence. Okay, brevity, clarity, be clear. At this point, the burden of my response is to give them clarity. Okay, they were to ask me the questions in a clear way. Now it's my response back to them. And it's important that I don't leave things to doubt. Okay, but these accuracy, brevity, clarity is how you write. Okay, my project understanding, I'm gonna come back and use that same header. Okay, and maybe actually use 2 different headers. Okay, in the process. If I do that, I'm gonna change my actually break it up. Okay, and I go back in, redo that because I want to have the encouragement. I'm doing something. Got 3 sections already. Look at there. Okay, so organize it. And the great thing about other this, when you provide this to them in a PDF format or anything, they're able to click on that and they're going to be able to jump straight to that section, find the answer to the question that they want, because they're going to evaluate you. If you and me and somebody else, all 3 of us are bidding against each other on this project, then they're going to take that and lay it out, all 3 of them, and they're going to check off that you described your firm, that you have a project understanding, and that you have a technical approach that matches theirs. Okay, because you remember we're already looking at probably 75% of the grading score right there. And the way they score, just like you do with a paper that you're writing in college or something, or in high school, you did the same thing. Okay, and you're going to describe that typical project approach, focusing on the uniqueness of your firm. Okay, this is where I'm going to have this document already written, most likely, if I've been doing this. Okay, this is the same thing you'll see over and over again. Governments don't lend themselves to creativity. Okay, so you've already written a response to these projects somewhere else, and you can just pull that out. Okay, and I'm gonna have that paragraph ready to go. And I've got answers to all these questions right now in my Google Drive, and I'm going to be able to finish this proposal tonight and get it to them by the 6th. Literally that quick. It's not anything complex, folks. Don't let it be overly complicated. Okay, I'm opening up the chat at this point so that you can start asking me questions, and then and I'll be glad to start answering some of those. You can actually chat with each other as well. And then you can also make any kind of comments that you need to do. Okay, so I've done that there. And then, of course, this is a recorded session, so it's all going to be live on YouTube, and you can go to that when we're finished in order to pull it off and watch it again. Okay, it's very simple to use. And whenever I go into this again, into my document, okay, I'm looking at response. Let's see here, I got lost there. Response there. Okay, I'm going back. I'm going to fill this in, making sure that I've got it. I'm going to have my references ready to go. I'm sure they're asking you that. Okay, project team, my experience statement. Okay, I've worked on 350 projects. Okay, there was a time when I had no projects. In fact, my first contract was in Vermont, and I had no contracts. So I had to sell myself in different ways. So my experience statement would say, I didn't start off with, I don't have any experience. I haven't ever won a contract. I started off saying, I'm a subject matter expert in the factor evaluation system. I have 10 years training in this topic. I will be excellent hire for this project. Okay, give them sell yourself. Don't negate yourself. That's a Alexander Haig kind of defined that quote, and I live by that. Okay, going in there, experience statements. Firstly, what similar projects? Think of it the same way you do your references too. References. Okay, always remember those you contract those you have contracted with first. Use the typing. I'm not going to worry about that. Okay. Second, those you have done business with in the space maybe you work for. Okay. Those you work for. Okay. Third, those who can speak to good character. Okay. And you're going to progress in your business. Okay. Initially, and I always say this, your mother. Okay. Somebody who can say something good about you. Okay. And that's what you want. And you're going to progress up. And then eventually all you're going to have are those that you contracted with. And then all you're going to have is those that you contracted with in the public sector. Okay. And they don't care about these anymore. But until you get to this stage, if you're brand new, you got to have somebody. So get those references and get the ones that you can speak to good character. Okay. And not only that, they need to be able to give you, they need to be able to come in and respond whenever they call, because they will be called. Okay. Spend some time doing this. But if you haven't got any contracts yet, don't let that scare you off. Okay. I started out with relationships that I had. I did some business. And the reasons I started my business is because I had developed that over time. I'm an entrepreneur and I want to do that. So you have that. And then make sure you can tell your story. Okay. Experience statement, identifying key personnel, similar projects, the largest deal you ever did. When you went home, you said, gosh, I cannot believe I got this deal. I did this work. That's the one you want to talk about. Build a story. Okay. Build a case study that you're as great as you say you are. What makes you different? Okay. And that's how you're going to fill that information in. Okay? I want you to practice that and practice your writing. Okay. Have others go through with there and take a look at it, and you'll find that that's the case. And I'm just kidding about your mom. You don't want to put your mom over. Okay. So, but you should have somebody who can speak good character. And so that's your references. Okay. And that's every one of them. They're going to stop. They always want to finalize with that. I didn't look. Here's your project team chart. Have that ready to go. Okay. This could be those that not only the ones that work for you, but those that work with you, or those that are 1099, your team. You don't necessarily need to call them subcontractors, but they're more of, here are principals that are engaged with me. That's how I refer to them. And they don't work for me specifically, but they're involved in my projects. Okay. So I'm the project manager, and they're, in this case here, they call them sub-consultants. So I will identify them that way. On these, you only need like a paragraph. And you can have a resume. Like in mine, I might provide a resume for me, or if I've got a specialized individual doing part of this project, then I would include it for them. But I might have others. I'm just going to give them a paragraph about it. Okay. And if I want to give them more, I might give them my LinkedIn profile, or something like that. And I'm going to give them a hypertext link to it. Okay. Well, they can go get more information because I'm limited to 2 pages, and I might want them to learn more if they want to, so that then they potentially can go do that. So engage your, nowadays you have all these abilities to make your product, your response interactive. Okay. And so even on these here, you might want to come in and say, I contracted, here's a sample of my final report, link to it on the web. And then if they want to go check it out, they can. Okay. That's a way to add an advantage to your project response, comparatively speaking to others. Okay. So there we are. I have started the actual document and how it's going to be laid out. And I wanted to share that with you. And we've hopefully tried to accomplish some of that goal today. So let me go in here and see what the questions were. Okay. And people had saved them up. And just remember, in this chat box, I have a copy of the slides. I gave you a link to this Google Drive. You can kind of mock it if you'd like. It's not anything mind revelation or anything. It's just the organization. Is this proposal needed for every solicitation? No. Okay. So if I'm going to go to some, it's going to have at the federal level just a 1449. And there it's going to give you everything I need to do. So if I go to the federal government, let's just go to sam.gov. Okay. Or if I'm going to go in and bid on milk bids, okay, they're going to give me a document. They just want me to fill in the price. They may want a price volume, a proposal volume, and things like this. How are you actually going to deliver the milk containers, things like that? But it's not so complicated. Okay. What if you were looking at there as an RFP? Okay. So if I was going in and just providing milk, I was just showing this to somebody earlier. And then I would go in and I would open that up. This is an award notice. Always good to see the awards, see where people are at. Here's the fresh milk and dairy for South Dakota. DLA, it's going to be simple. They're going to control it in a very organized, straightforward way. And most likely I'm going to see a 1449 here, right there. If I open that up, go download. Okay, and my download folder, I'll open it for you so you can see what one looks like. Going to be a little bit different at the federal government level. Okay, and you don't have to be so creative as was done, but you can see what I just did there is not that creative. It's just a matter of being logical in your approach. And once I do one, I'm going to do multiple ones. Okay, but here's a 1449. Okay, that's what it's called, standard form. And they're going to show me how to bid, schedule. I'm going to put in my quantity, price, my amount. I'll put my company name here. It's going to be a little bit more simpler. Okay, not anything difficult. The first couple you do, then it can be, until you get used to it, you don't know really how to do it. Okay, that's why we have in our program, I'll share it with you in just a second, how we kind of, our purpose is to graduate you out. I don't have long-term writing clients, so I'll try not to. What I'm trying to do is teach you to do it yourself. And then you move on and you're successful. The whole proverb of teaching you how to fish, and you'll feed yourself for a lifetime. Okay. Thanks for all you do. Thank you for being nice to me. I appreciate that. Okay. How would you structure your responses? So how would you structure your responses if you mostly manage your contracts and use subs for work? That's the last thing I showed you. So maybe we didn't catch that, but I would have those ready to go and have a summary of who I'm using. Okay. And if they are subs, then I'm going to talk about that. The government themselves are going to ask you specific questions about subs. Okay. And they're going to tell you how they want you to respond back to them. And you're going to follow the instructions. A lot of time, excuse me, they're going to want to know the UEI. They're going to know other things about that company. They're going to want to see that company's capability statements. And so you got to do what they ask you for. Okay. That was a direct message. You may not have seen that. Okay. How would you write a response to a quote? What I just showed you there is the same way. A lot of times it's an email quote nowadays. And so you do the same approach, cover letter, get and have the quote ready to go. I always do it in a PDF version too, just like that. That response there I just gave you, I'll go ahead and put it down and make that as a copy. But then most of those, they want the quote in the email. Okay. I always do a cover sheet and a cover letter. I really do. It's just makes it easier for them to understand. It shows that you're taking it seriously. But oftentimes it's not evaluated for. Okay. That's where you, going back to General Haig, you know your capabilities, always excel past them whenever you're trying to impress others. And that's important that you do that, I think. Okay, don't take shortcuts. What's the name of the book again? Let me just look real quick. Shrunk. I think it's Dr. Shrunk and White's Elements of Style. Okay, it's free, usually on the internet. Not making any money for that. This is an old book, but it's a great book. Okay, I'm sorry, I sent a direct message to somebody. I'm gonna send it to everybody. Okay, if you don't have this, it's a couple of bucks. I think if you search, you actually get a copy now. It's in all libraries. Okay, The Elements of Style. Okay, and this teaches you how to write better. Okay, in my graduate program when I first started, I remember writing a document and got it back, and it was all red ink. You don't even see red ink anymore. But it was like, you have failed to communicate in English language. And so I took that to heart, and I sat back and said, I'm gonna write better. And I did. So everybody kind of take that approach, and I think you'll be glad you read this book. That's one book that I have always at my fingertips. Okay. Is it worth to respond to an RFI? Of course. A lot of times RFI is the best thing to do, request for information. And because they're generally wanting to know if there's a marketplace for what they are seeking. Okay. And oftentimes you're the only one or maybe two, they can get straight to contract with you. And so that's always good. Always respond to an RFI or request for proposal. And these are also important that you have your capability statement ready to go. A lot of times they want you to attach that. Request for information also can be used for a situation where there's a natural disaster, and they want to know anybody who can help them at that point in time. In fact, when the pandemic really we all first engaged with it, a lot of governments would do an RFIs. And so they just want anybody to respond. If you got this product, let them know that's a request for information, and then they can just go straight to contract with you. So always take the opportunity to do that. In fact, sometimes you can do, if you have a new or innovative project, do an SBIR, small business innovation process, where you're giving them an unsolicited proposal or unsolicited request for, with information about your company. Okay, take the opportunity to market yourself. It's helpful. Okay, have that document ready to go. Okay. Somebody else said RFIs are great. I agree with you. I'd rather respond to an RFI than just about anything else. I like the ones, RFPs are good straight to contract too, and you can find out very quickly if you win. So there we are with the questions today. At this point, I'm going to actually stop on YouTube Live. Okay. And we thank you, anybody on YouTube Live. I'm not able to answer your questions.